Welcome to the Unshackled Life podcast. Real talk about faith, freedom, and following Jesus. My name's Dalen Woodard, and this is one of those Ramblecast episodes. Not scripted, not polished, just me talking it out and thinking it through. They may have even been recorded on the fly with interruptions or background noise. If you're up for an honest, sometimes messy, but hopefully meaningful musing, you're in the right place. Let's go. I have been thinking about where I think I have been many times, and a lot of people are right now. And just let me try to speed this up a little bit. Quick little survey. You might think all of these people have the same thing in common, and then you might start listening a little bit more and realize they don't. I'll start with Abraham. Here's a man called of God, given a precious promise. I'm going to make you the father of many. I'm going to give you a child. And that promise is fulfilled, and before that boy is old enough to make Abraham a grandfather and continue that line on, he's on an altar getting ready to be sacrificed at the Lord's command. His great-great-great-grandson Joseph gets a prophetic dream that he's going to be blessed somehow. The reward for that is his brothers sell him into slavery. He does really well at his job, gets blessed. He walks with God, and the result is he's falsely accused of a sex crime and thrown into a dungeon for well over a decade. He helps a couple of guys. Things are looking up. They're close to Pharaoh. One of them makes him a promise. When I get there, I'm going to remember you, and I'm going to tell the king that I'm going to tell Pharaoh you're not here rightly. And then the guy promptly forgot all about Joseph for years. Thanks, dude. Appreciate you. David is anointed king. He's going to be the next king of Israel. Slays Goliath, defeats the enemies of the Lord, and he's hiding in a cave because the king's trying to kill him. And he doesn't feel right about fighting back. Oh, okay, these guys, they all have this faith thing in common and this obedience thing in common. Never mind, David doesn't do so well in that department. At that point in time, he still was, but okay. There's a dude named Jonah who gets kind of disobedient and tries to run away from God, and he gets thrown into the ocean to try to stop the consequences of that. And he gets swallowed up by a fish. And he's in the belly of a great fish for 3 days and nights. Whether or not he died during that point in time is debatable, but he's there and he's alive when he comes out. Serves as a representation of Jesus in some areas. But I wondered this morning for the first time, and I don't know if I could even do the research to find out if it's true, but have you ever stopped to wonder whether or not Jonah actually got to Nineveh faster? He may have. Those journeys across those seas weren't, 20-minute ferry rides. He may have actually gotten to Nineveh quicker. I don't know. There's a woman, loved men of God just because he was a man of God, didn't ask for anything in return, was offered a son. She said, "Don't you tease me like that. Don't you even offer me a son unless you're going to give him. Unless this is for real." The response to that was, "You're going to have a child." So when a few years later, that boy probably has a heat stroke, has some sort of illness out in the fields, and then goes home and climbs up in mama's lap and dies there, oh my goodness, this woman says, wait a minute, that's not what the Lord said. Her response was, I'm going to go get the man of God. You said I was going to have a son, and I said, don't tease me, and you said, I'm not, you're going to have a son. That's teasing me, so finish what you said, because God's going to finish what he said. Now, sometimes, we don't get to do that kind of thing with God because we're focusing on what we wanted or what we heard rather than what he said. But in this case, she was right. This was the enemy trying to take what God had given to her, and she had an opportunity to fall into despair or turn to the one who made the promise to begin with. But we don't see any indication that, Jonah may have, there's indication he prayed in the fish. So yeah, there was a turning there. There's a whole lot more, but I'm going to skip all the way to the beginning of this faith. Acts. The first part of Acts is about kind of the spread and how this new thing is growing. And then we get to meet Stephen, and he's this awesome man of God. And then he gets stoned to death for Jesus. And we're introduced to a dude named Saul. And if you have the ESV, that goes from chapter 7 to chapter 8. And the title in front of chapter 8 on Acts says, Saul ravages the church. Ooh. If it was a movie, it would have that ominous music. This is the end. The end is near. All is lost. It's all hopeless, right? And I think it's just because God really knows how to tell a good story. Because in the best stories, there's always some obstacle where it looks like all is lost before the great victory. I don't know. But I know there was one more. That I have nothing indicating in the text that there was any. They may have spent the whole time praying for all I know, but just simply they were given a timeout in hopelessness, and that was those disciples. They followed Jesus around for 3 years, put their hope and trust in him. He's our Messiah. He's the one. This is our hope. This is our life. Where should I go? You have the words of eternal life. You are the Son of God. All my hope is in you. And then he's arrested and beaten and nailed to a cross. Nobody lives through that. They know that. The Romans were very, very proficient at killing people that way. I thought he was the one. I thought he was on our side. I thought he was going to make it better. I thought he was the answer. I thought he was going to set us free. I'm hiding from the guards. I don't know how many and how much they prayed. I don't know what they prayed. I don't know if they turned to God in hope or in fear or if they just hid in a corner. I don't know, but I know they did the hiding part. They just went and hid. There was nothing on their part that they did that had anything to do with what God was actually doing at that moment. But from the perception, all was lost. And each and every one of them, regardless of what they did or didn't do at that moment, because we don't know, it's not in the text, had a moment in that darkness to turn towards the God of hope, the God of mercy, the faithful, good God we serve, or to turn away from him. We all get those same kind of choices. Corrie ten Boom doesn't get much more horrible than that. She's trying to do the right thing. helped save little Jewish children and their parents from the Nazis in World War II. She's turned in and captured and sent to Auschwitz and watches her sister abused and killed and nearly dies herself. Doesn't get much darker than that. Man, you should have seen the smile on her face in the 1970s. She had a big old smile. She was so filled with joy. She had gotten something of God deeper than what she had when she was trying to serve him before the trouble. And she taught a lot of us the importance of letting go of bitterness and forgiveness. I'm sure Joni Erica's thought her life was over when she broke her neck. She's inspired many. And sometimes it's just as simple for me as I had something in motion and it looked like I lost it all. But I didn't. There was actually a restoration that was prepared, and what I got was what I needed and was better than what I would have gotten. That darkness doesn't mean the light's not coming. Those people that I talked about weren't all obedient and faithful and good and heroes. They just had a relationship with God. That's simple. And every bit of destruction that comes into our life that makes us want to give up hope is something that God can and will use if we let him, to not only build us up where we are better than we were before, because sometimes broken down and restored is stronger and more beautiful than it was before it was broken, but we will also be able to help others who are being shredded, who are facing their own dark night of the soul, who are facing their own circumstances that look like all is lost. So if it looks like all is lost, there was one moment in time when, for all intents and purposes, it really, really looked like all was lost. The Son of God had died. And yet, it was actually that moment of victory, shown and proven when he came up out of that grave, so that we can come up with him. We can come with him. So if you're in a place of darkness, of fear, of worry, of anger, of the circumstances, my part 2 of my play just sucks, that means part 3 is going to be epic. Okay, the worst part 2 is, the worst act 2 is, the better the victory. The better the symphony has to be to play the background music for the victory. As long as we remember we're not the ones manufacturing the victory. Sometimes all we're doing is hiding in the dark, looking for the light, crying out for God. In the mess we made, or somebody else did to us, or the plan that God had all along. All these things are not mutually exclusive. But in all these things, Jesus is the answer. He is the light that breaks the darkness. And you go, we're going to make it after all. So thank him for that. And think on how many times it looked like all was lost. And yet, here you are. Because God said to the enemy, this far and no further. You can't have any more, because this isn't so that you can win. This is so that they can have a better relationship with me. And I'm not going to let you do any more than it takes for that to happen. Thanks for spending some time with me today. If this Ramblecast sparked a thought, stirred something in you, or gave you something to wrestle with, I'd love to hear about it. You can reach out anytime. Dalen Woodard at minister.com. That's DALYNWOODARD. And if you're finding these episodes helpful, feel free to share it with someone or leave a comment or a review. Until next time, be blessed, and remember, when you fix your thoughts on God and build your thinking on the foundation of His truth, God fixes your thoughts.